What is up, everybody? This is Jake with the JD Fit Podcast, and I'm joined today by JR with CrossFit Crash and the head. You're considered head programmer of Syndicate, right?
Yeah, that's a good title.
Yeah. Okay. Today we're the main structure of what we're talking about is teams, but I'm sure we'll get off on a bunch of different tangents as we already did before the show started. JR, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. Appreciate you bringing your knowledge to the table.
Yeah, you're welcome. I always, when I have the time, like to just kind of discuss, argue, ponder different things, especially programming based. So it's always fun to do this.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite thing too. Anything I think is a problem, I love to just spend time thinking about how to fix it. And it doesn't have to be just about programming or CrossFit, really anything. And for some reason, I do love to argue. So starting off, how do you go about coming up with so for everybody who doesn't know, JR programs both the individuals and the teams for Syndicate. And he also does a team competition at his gym every year, the Crash Crescendo, and then also does kind of a high level individual program or individual competition called the Crash Crucible. Today we're focused on the teams, and I kind of want to know, how do you get started with teams? Because it's individual stuff. Sometimes I feel like because you like to work out, you know things that you think are cool, and you're like, oh man, I would love to see this being done. But teams is a little more difficult because, at least for me, it wouldn't be top of mind or something that's always nagging at me. Like, I got to see this,
Yeah, truthfully, I think I get a lot more fulfillment out of programming team workouts in general because I do think they're more difficult, and I think the challenge is fun for me.
Oh, you love challenges.
Wednesdays and Saturdays have been partner or team workouts since I took over the gym in 2015. So I think because of that, I actually would lean to, oh man, this would be really cool in a team workout before individual, because I think it's pretty easy to create a story with individual workouts as long as you're using the floor as much as you can, as long as you're creating some drama where there needs to be some, as long as you're, thinking about complementary movement patterns or maybe some redundancy in movement patterns. It's not that difficult, right? As long as you try to stay true to what CrossFit is, right? Couplets, triplets, the occasional chipper and single modality, you can't really go wrong. But with team stuff, you can't just all put it in a box, right? If you've got four people, especially, two people is pretty easy. But if you've got four people, first of all, everything can't be long. And I think in local competitions, everything tends to be short for team competitions because they got to get a bunch of teams through, and you got to pay the bills and you got to pay for all the signage and all the shirts and all that kind of stuff. But I think at a high level competition, it's really easy to just say, well, it's team, so everything's going to be 15 minutes or more. And I actually think that if you're creative, you can find a way to make sprint style workouts where you would do the same thing for individuals with varying formats. I think with the teams, you have to be way more conscious of what you're asking them to do, right? Without getting too into the weeds about it. Everything can't be bulk work. So everything can't just be, we're working on this big chunk of something. I go and then Jake goes and we just do it until we get done and then we move to something else. Everything can't be synchro, or else you're not really letting the individuals in the team show what they're good at and what they're not good at. You can't only do, hey, this pair works while this pair rest, and then this pair works while this pair rest. You need some of that, but they can't all be like that. So I think from a team programming standpoint, and I try to do it in class workouts too, I know that every 3 or 4 weeks, I need to program a team workout that's really more of an individual workout, where maybe you're only paced by how slow or fast your partner can go, but you're both still working the majority of the time. So you still get that like base work capacity. Some might just call it endurance style workout without everyone, okay, just one of you get on a rower, one of you get on a skier, one of you get on an echo bike, and one of you get on a run, and then we'll just rotate through until everyone does all of them, right? For like a base capacity endurance type workout. So yeah, I just rambled for about 3 minutes straight there, but I think
Can you, sorry to interrupt, can you elaborate more on that last one? Are you saying like something like partner 1 rows 500 while partner 2 does as many rounds of this, and this, and the workout's over when you get, I don't know, you both row 500s and you complete 20 rounds of this. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I was just throwing out all aerobic stuff because I think a lot of times when we get to the, okay, cool, like the teams need to go long in a more traditional aerobic sense, let's just put them all on machines and do it. Whereas what I think an easier way and maybe a more like classic CrossFit way to do it is that, like, you know, you have 2 of them leave and go on a 400-meter run, and while the other 2 are doing I don't know, 15 synchro clean and jerks. We'll just use that semifinal workout from a couple years ago as an example. And then they're going to alternate doing that for 4 rounds. So they're all going to do a double grace and they're all going to run a mile, right? So 2 are doing one thing while 2 are doing something else. Everyone's working essentially the whole time, but they're still going long. So, you know, syndicate workouts coming out yesterday. Mostly really good feedback. Definitely some, wow, these are aggressive feedback, which is great because that's kind of what I programmed them to be. Incorporating some things without just using a worm for everything, because I think at this point, a worm really hides people on a team. I think when it first came out, it was a great way to show who can be in sync and who can all shoulder the load and who can. But then it got to the point where, especially if you have size differences on teams, there are some workouts where the guys are doing everything and the girls aren't really doing anything if the size discrepancy is so great. So I'm like, the way they use the earthworm at the games, where every person has their own segment that they're having to do work with, until we can get those in competitions. I actually think moving away from the worm and having synchro barbell work or synchro dumbbell work, or this year having everyone carry a litter to go do something and then come back and lunge it, that requires that same level of adaptation that I think people 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago were experiencing with the worm. And now people are so good with it that I think sometimes it actually doesn't show who on the team is the weak link, because you can kind of take work away from others in that setting.
Interesting. I'm trying to think of different ways. We did a partner Zercher lunge with the fat bar one time, and then I was thinking, well, I wonder if the worm could work as a partner, as like a team of 4 Zercher lunge. And then I was like, oh, there's no way they're going to have enough width on a field to go that wide.
Yeah, no, and I don't think you need to get crazy fancy with it. Like having Crescendo only about 2 months before Syndicate, I was really conscious. I think the initial question you asked were like, how do you start the team programming? And truthfully, I'd had the Syndicate programming done, and then from that, I created the Crescendo workouts because I didn't want there to be too much overlap, right? For instance, I'll just use the cut rope as an example. We used it last year for individuals at Syndicate, but the teams didn't. They just had regular legless. And at Crucible, we used the cut rope with the pegboard and the regular rope climbs. But at Crescendo, I was like, okay, cool. I think I'm going to bring the cut rope to Crescendo, but if I do that, I don't want to do it for the teams at Syndicate. I just don't want it to be too repetitive. Likewise, you see the D balls, which people don't really use because of access, because of cost, and because if you have sandbags, doesn't matter if you're sweaty, doesn't matter if, you know, they hold up a lot easier. So I purposely programmed D balls at Crescendo, knowing that we weren't going to use them at Syndicate. So we had the litter, there was the workout with the trail run and the synchro sandbag squat. So you still get that same gritty type feel, but I really was conscious of, hey, I want the teams to do the obstacle at Syndicate. That's like a must. I'm not going to put the obstacle in Crescendo because I don't want that like redundancy, you know? I think I start the team programming though the same way I do individual. So I think I do have a couple flagship ideas, maybe not necessarily workout set in stone, but then I build around those, which is what I think anyone that running a competition should do. I mean, Dave's talked about it in his book. I'm sure Boz does the same thing. You need to have a couple things that you're like, hey, I'm not moving from this. Like, I will do this, and then everything else will have to be adapted based on that. I kind of thought that maybe Amanda 45 was going to be one of the flagship individual workouts this year because we didn't get to see it 2 years ago at the games. I ended up settling on it being a team feature with the 3-way synchro, 2 on the bar, 1 on the rings, which hasn't been done before in a big competition. And then the 3-way synchro squat snatches. And once I had that workout, I was like, okay, you have this. Now we're squat snatching with a barbell with lightweight. It makes more sense to do a heavier clean if you want to do an Olympic lift. We didn't do much of it in the open. Quarterfinals didn't even have teams. So it's hard to know who can handle that or not. But starting with the weight as light as I did, I know everyone can play for a few rounds. And then from there, okay, cool. If you have rope climbs and you want to do it at crescendo with cut rope, you're either going to do regular or you're going to do legless. I decided to do like a combination of both for that workout. And then things just start to build, right? You get a couple events set and you're like, okay, well, if I'm using dumbbells here, I probably don't want to use them again. And we have enough weightlifting. Maybe we'll just do a gymnastics only workout, which is how event 1 is. It's all machines and body weight. And it's usually good to do that if you have a heavy lift anyway, just for balance. So I think it kind of takes care of itself as long as you can take 1 or 2 events that you know you're going to leave alone. I think what people run into the problems with is they have the flagship events, but before you know it, they've changed them. So now if you change the flagship ones, you have to change everything else around it. And then things start not making sense. And I will say with the team programming, which is a lot harder than the individual, it is difficult to stay away from redundancies. Biases are okay. Like I'll say that Syndicate this year, I think, has an overhead bias, which typically I'm not really an overhead bias guy, especially with load. It's usually more of a pulling. And this year you see a lot more load overhead for the teams, especially with the dumbbells and the squat snatch. And then you have the handstand variations. It's really, really easy to just start to look at the workouts and notice that they're all the same format. Oh man, all these workouts are 1 work, 1 rest, or all these workouts are synchro, or all these workouts are. That's when that's when it gets really challenging, because before you know it, you've written 4 different competitions. And luckily I have Wilson since Thanksgiving to present these workouts to. And for him, because he's really, really knowledgeable and he's seen a lot of, especially team programming, and he's programmed them himself, he can push back on me in a challenging, constructive way to say, hey, you've got this pairs relay, which is cool. We don't see many relays anymore. What if the second part, they had to do an individual relay where like half of it was synchro and then they reset and then they have to go, everyone does individual work.
Do it by themselves.
And so like, that's something that came from him, and it was perfect for like the workouts.
That's a cool format. I like that.
Yeah. I feel like you used to see relays all the time at team competitions and people would get mad because like, this is not about the best individuals on the team. This is about how good the team is. Well, if you have 6 workouts, there's nothing wrong with having a relay.
Yeah.
You know, it just, all the workouts can't be, we need to see who the best individuals are on the team. It just, as long as they're not all doing that, I think doing that is great. And I think it adds a lot of excitement and it puts people on an island. If you pick the right movements, you can really expose someone who may be the weak link on a team just by having them being out there on their own, you know, which is good.
Yeah, that adds excitement. Plus, I mean, I think by the nature of the team, you also, because team athletes tend to be, how do you say, more niche or more specialist in some, while you want to punish them for being a specialist, you also want to highlight them so they can get a big moment. That's one thing that the individual competition doesn't get to do as well, I guess.
100%. And I know we don't have the workouts up on the screen, so I feel like it's just, if you don't know them, it's kind of hard to envision it. But
sorry, that's above my pay
grade. It's okay. You've got this workout for the teams where The first workout is, hey, we can't really go on until everyone is here with us. And then we have to do these 50 burpees in the middle, which if you have one person that's just not good at burpees, it slows everyone down, right? So it's like you're exposing that person right there. They don't need to be on the floor by themselves. You just know, oh, that team had to slow down because look, it seems like everyone's looking at this one athlete waiting on them to get up off the ground.
Which is super fun to watch.
So it's great. But then also too, you have this clean ladder where you could go the whole workout and be like, you know what? That one male, he hasn't done any cleans since the second weight. And yeah, he's got to do the buy-in, but he's helped as much as he can. And I'm not slowing down the strong athlete because he has a weaker teammate. I am just making him shoulder more of the load. Yeah. So there's a way to expose people where it's very clear and obvious to the spectator. And there's also ways to do it that kind of hides it a little bit unless you really know what you're looking at. You got the workout with the litter and they've all got to run a mile. And there are going to be teams that start the strict handstand push-ups and there are going to be teams that are sitting there waiting for another minute on their slow pairs to get back from a run. So there are different ways you can do it. And I really tried to be creative with that and not just exposing people the same way, because I think all the teammates need to kind of show that they can do everything. And if they can hide it, they're probably not going to be relevant anyway, because the team's not going to get a good score.
I like that a lot too, because, and I'm sure somebody's going to hate this, but I feel like the people who are good at running tend to not be great at handstand push-ups, and the people who are really good at handstand push-ups tend to be a little bit shorter and stockier and not quite as good at running.
Shorter limbs, for sure.
That'll create a nice dichotomy where the runner can recover and try to contribute as best as they can too.
Yeah, and that workout specifically has 3 rounds of 50 strict handstand push-ups on 2 different set stations. So like you'll have a male-female pair working towards 50 while their counterparts are working towards 50. How many teams are going to have 2 pairs that can come off the wall at roughly the same time? Very few. Only the most balanced teams. And that already will show you, oh man, this workout's going to come down to how fast that second pair can get through these on the last round, because the first pair doesn't look like they're going to struggle with it at all. And it also kind of, I'm going to use Jessica Andrasic because she's so incredible at strict handstand push-ups. She may go with a teammate where she's going to do 35 of the 50 every single time. So she's got to do 105 of the 150. Cool. Because on another workout, maybe it's the other way around and someone else is doing more cleans. In the case of her, it's not, because she's really strong too. But there are going to be other opportunities in the competition where she can get some reprieve from one of her teammates. And I think if you're going to do a workout where, hey, if you want to do more, cool, there needs to be another one that kind of balances that out. And there's like a gymnastics one and a barbell one in that same way.
That makes me think about, because I never program workouts like this, but did you ever think about letting as soon as the first partner gets back, they can just start working on the handstand push-ups and not waiting for both partners? I've never done that in a workout before. Just throwing that out there.
Okay.
Like I always make people wait.
And
now I'm thinking like, why do I not let, you could just get to work.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think from a storytelling standpoint, and because I think it would be really easy to just say, everyone run a mile, but the slower milers are just going to be the better at handstand push-ups. So you can just run slow. We can go ahead and get started. That way we'll get a little bit of a head start. I didn't want that option. I wanted, no, you all run a mile. And then when you all get done, then you can start. But to your point, we did a variation of that semifinal workout. I think 2023, the year Boz programmed it, where it was 5 rounds for time, 800-meter run, 15 clean and jerks, 10 clean and jerks. It was 50 reps, right at 185. And I programmed a team version. It was just 800-meter run, 20, just run with your partner. But I told them, you can run ahead of your partner and go ahead and get started on the barbell if you want.
Okay, so you've done that
which
before.
was good because it made it more relative where someone's just not getting drilled the entire workout. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you can run faster if you want, but you got to get a couple reps done before I get there.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, there's nothing worse than being the slower runner, and you already decided that you're going to split it up into like twos, and
right.
You were running for a minute longer. You get in, 5 seconds later, your partner already has their twos done. You're like, oh fuck, I'm up again.
Yeah, you just get caught in the vortex of like, I'm the slower runner and I'm not getting any rest, so this is not good.
Especially for male female partners too. That makes it really challenging because the females, on average, right? I mean, you look at world record times and stuff like that, are just a little bit slower than men. So in a
workout like that, let's just use that 185 as an example. I will typically program 185, 135 for anything that I do other than maybe bench press. I'll do 185, 125. In that workout scenario, would you be more inclined programming it lighter for the females so that the barbell is a little bit easier comparatively than it is for the males to make up for the running? Or would you not even really think about that?
No, I do. There's a bunch of different things like ski erg. A lot of times if we do ski erg and we do the traditional splits, like 18-15 or something like that, I don't know if you have the same thing, but I find women are common that they struggle a little bit more with that. Running, lunge steps, stuff like that. I do try to make it a little like if I waffle on scaling, I usually go with the lighter version for ladies just because they're already a step behind.
Yeah, I think people ask me this a lot. Like, there's not always a set machine scale. It's kind of changes. And I'm like, every workout is a little different for me. So if we're doing sprint intervals, then I think 10 and 7 cals on the Echo bike is appropriate. But if we're doing like if we're doing like a rounds for time workout, and let's just say it's like let's just say it's 5 rounds, 20 cal Echo, 20 deadlifts at whatever, 225, 155. That's probably inappropriate. It's a little crazy on the deadlifts, but 100 deadlifts. I will keep it 2016 because the females
are quicker on the deadlifts.
I think are easier for them, and I think that 10 to 8 scale is appropriate. So every workout is different, and that's a whole podcast, but I think it's something good to go into right now. I think when it comes to certain movements, you need to look at the entirety of the workout. You need to look at the stimulus, and then you need to make the call. If you want, especially in a class setting, if you want the males and females to have a similar stimulus, which you should want, then do the reps on gymnastics need to be adjusted. Do the calories or the meters on the machines need to be adjusted. Do the loads need to be adjusted differently than maybe what you did last week? The answer is yes. I don't think there is a set way that you should always do it because in a vacuum, every workout is different.
This brings up a pain point for me that I don't understand why we don't see more scaling like this. But why in the world, when it comes to legless rope climbs or rope climbs in general, I don't understand why we don't just take 2 feet off for the women. Just make it a little bit shorter. Because I think doing less rope climbs isn't the same because the amount of times you have to jump up on the rope is its own type of work. Getting up, just that jump to start is effort, and a lot of effort actually if you're smart about it. But obviously they don't cover as much distance as they climb hand over hand. It makes sense to bring it down 2 feet and cut a pole out, but I never see that, and especially not with regular rope climbs. But well, you're tall, like tall.
Yeah, I think the options are you adjust reps or you adjust height, and I think typically, I mean, at the games level, a lot of times they don't adjust anything, right? The finale was still 753 last year to 18 feet, I think. So yes, I know they're not competing against each other. That's a whole nother argument we can go into. But reps or height climb 2 probably should be adjusted if you want the time similar and the stimuli similar between the two sexes, which I think most people should want. And this is why. They're not competing against each other, so it doesn't matter. However, if we're doing the finale, and we'll use last year an example, and the workout is supposed to be a rope climb workout, but you scale it to the point for the females where it becomes a thruster workout, then we have a problem. Because probably the programming has needed a grip, stamina, dynamic pull. Oh, I don't care what bucket you want to put the regular rope climb into, that, hey, that's what we need on this finale to make sure it's a well-rounded test. But you've changed the stimulus for the females to the point where now it's not a rope climb test and it's a thruster test, then we have a big problem, in my opinion. Because then you can say the fittest in the world on the guy's side showed that they could do everything, but on the female side, we didn't really check the box on pulling. Like that's an issue. So normally I go with reps on like a legless rope climb, or even like a really dense set of rope climbs. I'll adjust. But I think a great idea, I wouldn't want to do it at a semifinal level because those rigs for most people are 14 feet. And I don't think we need to make it a 13-foot rope climb. But I think if they're really going to 15 feet, especially like on a legless rope climb, I think leaving it at 5 reps, but just having them go to a foot shorter is great. And, you know, I think it's something we should probably do more often, because it probably makes it a little bit more balanced between the two. Because those last couple pulls, or that last foot clamp pull, is what makes it harder for the women because they don't cover as much distance.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know,
We do 1.5 feet. So it's like 13.5 feet for women, 15 feet for guys. And sometimes we won't, you know, like once again, like if it's something where women have a really fast cycle time and they're making up ground on guys on a different movement, then I might leave it at 15. But like we did something the other day where it's like, you have 4 minutes and you ski 500 for men, 450 for ladies, do 4 rope climbs, and then do max strict handstand push-ups in the remaining time. And then you rest 1 minute and you do a bike, pistol, max strict handstand push-up, same time thing. But because it's a limited time window, right? We scaled it down, the rope climb, because otherwise it's inevitably going to take them longer. Because even just one more pull, I mean, you're a 2-puller kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
Like every time you're doing 2 pulls, me as well. Like my wife is also, well, she's short also, but she's pretty darn good at rope climbs, but it's always at least 3 for her if she's going to go to 15. So it doesn't make sense to make them do that extra one because it takes more time and then it eats away at your interval.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I think the movements like that need to be looked at what the limiter is. I think Colton really kind of blew people's minds this year and kind of got people away from this idea that when there are 300 wall balls in a workout, is it really a tall guy movement, or is it just who has the best squat and the fastest?
That was fucking wild,
right? It was great because I think it made everyone think about that movement specifically. I also think it highlighted that when you have ladies using a 14-pound med ball, and going to a shorter target too, that needs to be considered with the totality of the workout. And if we're going to think of it like a rope climb, like, okay, cool, so they're shorter. All right, cool. So they're going, well, yeah, they're shorter and they're going to a lower height. Great. But we're not making the guys wear a weight vest too. So that doesn't really make any sense on a wall ball. If we're already letting them go to a shorter target, why aren't they using the same ball weight?
So, I have an argument for this.
So sure, all that kind of stuff is good to consider. But I think the moral of this whole conversation is you cannot apply the same rules to every single workout.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
But we have advanced. Shockingly, everybody. Karen is no longer the same workout for males and females at the way it was originally prescribed. It is just not. Because you get a female who's 5'8" or 5'9", let's just say even say 5'6" or 5'7", it's not even going to be close. And the amount of people that can do it unbroken are way more than the amount of guys that can do it unbroken. It has nothing to do with fitness. It just has to do with physics, distance, all those things. Like, they're just not going to be able to do it for as long as the females are going to. But if you give them a 14-pound ball and you make them throw to a 10-foot target, does that balance it out? Now it probably skews to the guys. Sure. I don't think there's a perfect way to do it. Should they be using a 16-pound ball? I don't know, maybe, but
Or
like,
maybe it shouldn't be a full foot, maybe just 6
sure,
inches or
maybe 6 inches works. But I do find it interesting that if you bring up something like a burpee pull up to someone and they say, well, yeah, I mean, just find a bar a little bit out of your reach and that's what you use. Really? So it shouldn't be a set height. And just if you're taller, you just get closer to the bar, because a burpee is going to take the bigger person longer to do anyway.
Mhm.
Why would you double punish a smaller, or why would you double reward a smaller athlete with burpees and a bar that's slightly out of their reach? That would be like me saying, hey, if you're shorter, you can climb to 14 feet, but if you're taller, you got to climb to 15. Makes no sense at all. But if you ask them about a burpee pull up, they're like, well, yeah, slightly out of your reach. Well, why? Why shouldn't you all just have to jump to a bar that's 92 inches? And if you're shorter, okay, I got to do strict handstand push-ups too with long arms. So what? Like,
yeah.
that's where I get into where I get a little bit more passionate about it, because they want to use one rule for one movement, but then they don't want that to be uniform across all movements.
Yeah. No, we could argue about this all day, because I think me and you actually sit on opposite sides of the fence on some of this stuff.
I think so. Yeah.
But it's funny because I don't know if everybody even thinks about that, because not everybody is coaching, 50 to 80 athletes every day and watching how it affects them, how each individual workout affects them. I don't think enough people do. Yeah, it's just interesting. It's something that only a person who's really geeky on programming and programming in competition, but also coaches at their affiliate all the time, will even notice, I think.
I think the whole being around general population is a huge, maybe it makes you worse as a competition programmer, because what you see every day is CrossFit, but what you see just a couple times a year is something different. Mm-hmm. So it's hard not to let those two things affect one another. I know it is for me. Like I programmed a syndicate workout and I had my members test them. Now, my members are semifinal, team level, individual crucible athletes. Like, they're very, very, very fit. Mm-hmm. But I just threw them together to do a couple of the workouts because I needed to know that at least time domains were relative. And they do it and they have really good times. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, yeah, cool. So this is good. And I don't think about the fact that what they're good at may be better than 99% of the people who actually do the workouts at Syndicate. So it's to me, they're my members, and I see them do it every day. Oh yeah, I programmed this workout and the avatar is Zach Strail. The avatar is 30 strict
handstand push-ups.
The avatar is 30 strict handstand push-ups a minute, because I know that he can do that and take a couple breaks, right? But most people is like, hey man, holding 10 to 15 a minute still pretty freaking good. I have to remind myself of even when I program a competition, you can't think about the outlier. You need to think about, what is the workout trying to test? Mm-hmm. Who is it trying to expose or juxtaposed to who is it trying to highlight? And then from there, you pick that area that's kind of in the middle as the person who's like, what's a good score? Not what a winning score is or what a tanking score is, but even in class workouts, I do find that challenging, that maybe I'll say, yeah, I think I could do it in this amount of time. So the person who's the fastest can probably do it a minute faster. Or, hey, I think the best female in this setting is going to be able to do it at this time. So what do I need to do to the male to make sure that it's around that same time? It's cool. I have a lot of fun doing it week to week, but also I get all those really kind greetings in the gym where one week the ski erg was 500, 400. But then the next week I chose to do 500, 450. And it's like, well, wait a minute. And I was like, okay, well, when it's 500, 450, the females still get off a little bit faster than the males. It was 500, 400 because you guys had to do a bunch of legless rope climbs on that day. You know what I mean? It's remember every work but you can't expect your members, just like you can't expect the competitors to know that, because they don't spend their time thinking about that. They're just like, see the work, do the work. That's it.
Yeah. No, Man, I'm 500, 400. I'm surprised I guess with legless rope climbs, especially if you're going to the same height too.
That was I just threw that example out there, but yeah, I know that there have been times that I've used bigger scales because of whatever the movement, whatever it was. Like, okay, cool. So the machine, I really need to think about how long it's going to take, because on a sled push or a lunge or something that covers distance, I just know how much time is going to be lost, on a certain thing. And with partner workouts, it throws a whole nother element in, which we do twice a week, because a lot of times, they're co-ed teams. I mean, I would say at least half of the teams yesterday were co-ed teams. So,
you ever
for whatever reason.
This is probably last question on scaling, but do you ever scale the run at all? Give the women like 20, 30 meters left so it can be exactly the same?
Never outside.
Well, I forget you go around your building. You can just let them cut the corners though.
if I run for calories, I will adjust it a little bit.
Okay, I've seen that.
Typically. Yeah. I actually didn't this week. There was a running workout on Monday that I did not adjust. I'll just use echo with it because I think those are pretty close effort and time wise for most people. I think the echo just crushes some people, especially if they're smaller. Just like if you're bigger and you just have more weight to put into the belt on a runner, you're going to be able to make it look like you're a better runner, even though you might not be. So like if I do a 10-8 scale for calories on an echo, I'll do 10-9 on the runner. So I will acknowledge that it's a little easier for the males because of body weight, but not to the extent that I think the echo bike is. Yeah. So I think if running on a runner, especially for calories, and it's like a partner workout alternating 30 on 30 off, like really ripping it, the females cannot keep up. It's a lot more exponential because of the power output. But I think running and bike erg are the things that can be adjusted the least.
Okay. Yeah.
Females.
I have a very, very occasionally scaled runs for the women, just because it irks my soul to watch guys get to win, because on a run they're naturally gaining like 5 seconds, of equal ability or something like that. Like a 400-meter run, they're naturally getting ahead, and so they didn't like you watch it and you're like, by all measures, she was faster, but he gained 20 seconds between 4 runs, and God, that just drives me nuts. Like, you want the best person to win, right? Like, for the person who executed the best. So
yeah, we did a workout a few Thursdays ago that was 5 rounds for time, 800-meter run, 1K row, and I just left it alone because it's like the kind of workout that if you see it on main side, it's just going to be the same type thing. Yeah. And it was a Thursday. People are in there to go long. It's not, but doing it, I was like, hey, if that would have been 1,900, that would have been perfect. Leave the run alone. The guys will gain a little bit on the run, but then on the row, they'll lose that same 10 to 15 seconds. And it would have balanced it perfectly. Because I do think about things like that after a workout is over, and I see, okay, how many guys went sub 40, how many females went sub 42. And if it's around the same number, then I know that, hey, every round, those guys, because of the row being the same distance, and to your point, the run for most people, they were just gaining like 20 seconds every single round. And if I would have just adjusted the row, I could have left the run alone, and those times would have been almost perfect. So sometimes you program a workout on purpose that you don't adjust so that you can know what that like gap is. Because I think for the longest time, I did 250, 200, and that's just the scale I used on the rower. And then I realized like this is not the same. It should be 250, 225. And now I kind of know it should be like, but that took some time. Early on, I was like, 250, 200. But then you realize that just like when it's rowing for meters, that difference in pace just doesn't equal time like calories will. And that's a whole nother argument that we have all the time about when to use calories, when not to. You should never use them, all that kind of stuff. But in a power output setting specifically, where it rewards moving more water with every pull versus going farther in the boat with every pull, then that is when you really need to make sure that the difference between men and women is substantial.
Oh man, I can't get started on the calories thing again. As soon as somebody can show me how they rode 50 calories downstream, I'll be more than happy to what was it called, acquiesce or whatever.
Right.
You love the those nerdy words. So we talked about testing a little bit. I'm interested in how you test for the teams for syndicate, because you need so many people. You're trying to keep it quiet. It's so hard to get the right amount of good people in the right space to begin with, let alone ones that aren't actually competitors. How do you go about that process? Because it's got to be hard.
Yeah, the two males that helped me test were also the syndicate individual testers, which helped a lot. Zach Strail and Caden Myers, who are both like semifinal level team athletes who have both done Crucible individually. Caden Myers has competed at the games when he was a teen.
Was a teen athlete, right?
Yep. So okay. They're both very good and very specialized in certain things that they're really, really, really good at, that I can know, like, hey, on a team, like, no one's going to be better at this than Caden, or no one's going to be better at Zach than this. So that helped a lot. And then since Lindsay had told me early on that she was going to Copa Sur and that she 100% was not doing syndicate on her team, I was like, great, I can grab Lindsay. And then Zach's fiance, Jessica, is a member, and she's just really solid at most things. So I knew that between those four, and then Derek, one of my other coaches, who, does competitions here and there. He has a full-time job, but he's still very generally fit. I knew I could plug him in if Caden wasn't able to come and travel like an hour to do stuff. And to be honest with you, man, I knew that I only needed to test for three of the six. So let's take synchro. Let's take Amanda 45, for example. I can just look at that and do the math on reps per second and just know that, hey, this time cap is very appropriate and it's generous. Everyone's going to finish it. Cool. We're good. I don't need to see it. The first workout is like a Saturday class workout that I would write. Hey, one pair goes this way. You guys do GHD sit-ups, and then you do ski. This pair goes this way. You do box jump overs and rowing. We meet in the middle. We do some burpees. We pass each other. We go to the other thing, and then we're done. Like, I can just do, that style of workout, reps per second, reps per minute, I've done so many times that I can just say, okay, cool. For the slowest teams, 2 minutes on the synchro movement, 5 minutes on the 100 cals, 5 minutes for the burpees in the middle, slap an 18-minute time cap. Let's keep going. Like, it's not, I think that's
especially if you're given a generous time cap, right? Like,
sure, it just comes from experience, but the litter workout had to be tested in full because it was such a weird implement. They're going to lunge it. How are they going to figure out how to lunge it? How are they going to figure out who goes on what side of it? All that kind of stuff. I knew that the relay one needed to be tested because initially the time caps were actually a little too generous from what I wanted, and knowing their times, I kind of adjusted the time cap to save some minutes in the schedule by making it a little more difficult. Which other one was tested? Oh, the clean ladder one. Yeah, I kind of had to use them and know that maybe this is not appropriate for the level of athlete that could come here. And, there's guys that clean 400 pounds, like Josh Mattis, I think, cleans 400 pounds. Like, those guys can't clean 400 pounds, but I can use the data from them and just say, okay, they may not have put up a winning score, but at least I know that the 2 minute and 30-second interval is appropriate. I knew the 60 double unders and the 3 rope climbs, switching it, that's 120 double unders. Okay, with a transition, that's a minute and 15 seconds. So cool. They have a minute and 15 seconds for the buy-in. They have a minute and 15 seconds for the lift. I think we're good at 230. Like, you at least can use your testing athletes, and you can make sure that floor layout wise, flow wise, the things kind of match up. Sometimes the ability levels don't match 100%, but you can at least use the timing and know, okay, cool. Even on the fourth interval, both pairs had a minute to lift. And if they had a minute to lift, those last couple barbells, you can assume that in a minute, either you can lift it or you can't, but at least there's time to do so.
Mm-hmm. Do you scale for them sometimes? Like
sometimes, yeah.
You give them like, I know that you said with with that exact workout, right? You finished at 345 instead of 355, I think, with some of your testing athletes.
Yeah. Yeah. Caden did the last 6 reps by himself. And I was like, man, like, I don't consider him one of the strongest people that would be at Syndicate. I just don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe I'm wrong. And maybe,
well, he's crazy fit too, right? He can make up a lot of strength with fitness too.
I was going to say, like, he's an amazing rope climber, right? He's tall and he's like, those are kind of effortless for him. So he's not expending as much energy. And like you said, he's really fit. So if the teams do it, and I think I estimated that like there will be 5, like maybe 5 male pairs and 5 female pairs that finish the workout, and then their counterparts probably don't. If it ends up being less, I'm just going to be like, you know what, Caden, I used you as an example and I shouldn't have. I should have just left the weights alone and not made them heavier, you know? So yeah, I think sometimes you can get spoiled by your testers, but I think other times you can see them do the workout. For instance, the dumbbell workout. They did the co-ed relay with the single dumbbell, 64 pull-ups, and timing was good. I mean, they all went about 2-minute splits for both pairs. So they had a couple minutes in the cap as cushion, and then they reset and they did the individual, and they did it with 16 double shoulder to overhead. So 16 single, 16 double, 32 chest to bar. They all went unbroken on the dumbbell, all 4 of them. And I was like, can we bump this 8? Because it's a crazy 8. So I was like, can we go up to 24 reps? And do you think it's still going to be possible unbroken? And of course, like 2 of them said, yeah, I could have held on. And 2 of them said, no way, I would have had to break. So it kind of let me know, okay, cool, I can do that then. And there's going to, if it's just who can get to the dumbbells faster, at 32 chest to bar, most people take a strategic break. I kind of wanted that weightlifting overhead movement to kind of limit teams, even though they can use their legs. It's just like, who's blown up from all the pull-ups? And 96 pull-ups is a lot, and most people don't do that amount of pull-ups anymore in a really short time domain. So it kind of made me realize that, oh wow, I actually thought this was going to be harder than it really is. So let's adjust it a little bit for maybe a little bit more drama. Hey, who can hold on, who can not hold on and take a quick break, but also how many of the 4 are going to be able to do that. So yeah, hopefully the testing in that situation was so needed. And I kind of thought on paper, I didn't need to have it tested, so.
Oh, that's, yeah. Fast workouts, I feel like you can't test them enough half the time, because it could just blow up so bad sometimes, right?
Yeah. And there was also like a lot of good variance within those 4 people for that pull-up dumbbell shoulder to overhead, where like I would say Zach is like a world-class gymnastics pull into a short range of motion press limiting movement. But then like I wouldn't say that Jessica, his fiance, I would say that's like a damage control workout for her. So the fact that she held on for unbroken, she's very good overhead, but she gets blown up in the arms pretty easily if it's something that dense. So it made me just be like, oh, I actually expected him to go unbroken, but her to just kind of fall apart, and she didn't. So now I know that I probably need to adjust it a little bit.
Yeah. Dumbbells overhead are interesting for long to short people, I think, because it seems like longer people can rest overhead, whereas short people can't. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you've noticed that.
What I have noticed is it's one of the few movements that when it's done heavy is still 70% is still correct. And what I mean by that is like, if you do a dumbbell snatch for a lot of reps at 170, it doesn't need to be 75 for the females, because whereas a barbell has a smaller diameter, The dumbbell is the same.
Yeah. That's
And holding two of them after pull-ups, like that really starts to affect the females more just because of grip, not because of load, but just because the thing that they're wielding is comparatively as big to their body and hand size as the males is. So I think that's a really interesting thing, that like dumbbells aren't made the way barbells are, where the grip element, like take Gwen for instance. Can you imagine if Gwen was done on the same diameter barbell? It would have had to been it had to been 115 or 105 for the women, like, because it was already a grip limiting workout for most people. So yeah, it's just interesting when you see things done, like the whole sandbag thing is 100% correct. If you can get a 150 and fill it with 100 pounds, we can say that it's relative, 150 and 100. If they're using that little disc, I'm using a full 150, that should never be an appropriate thing, because the women are just throwing it around. It's tiny compared to their body. It's tiny, and it's just not. It is not anywhere close to similar. But if you fill it, with the same girth, then I think it really like balances that out, which is interesting to do.
Yeah, I was about to get really geeky on that, but then I argued with myself while you were talking, and I was going to be like, well, where you don't have those problems, the D ball. I'm a big D ball guy. I prefer it.
Dude, I love them, and I've accumulated for the competition. I accumulated like 7 or 8 70s, 7 or 8 hundreds, 7 or 8 150s, and during the winter we used them all winter because sweat really doesn't become an issue. But now that we're getting into the summer months, I can't really use them anymore, because what I do not like about them is that slowing you down or speeding you up is just predicated on how wet it is and
how sweaty you get. That's one of the reasons why I have them, is because I think we got them during COVID, and everything was about cleanliness at that time. And honestly,
you can clean them. Yeah, you can clean them.
You can actually clean them. There's nothing worse than picking up a sandbag that's still wet from the person before you.
It does suck.
That pisses me off. And when I hear I normally tell my clients to suck it up and quit being a pansy. But when I hear that, my skin kind of crawls, and I'm like, ooh, I can see why that would not be fun, especially because it's touching your face. Like if it was just on your body, okay, but it's not. It's on your cheek. And
on Tuesday we did a sandbag carry workout with rope climbs, and it was like 200, 150, and I went at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and it's staying on like my stomach, right? I'm not shouldering it. But I just went to grab the first one. I was like, man, there's nothing worse than feeling wetness before you get sweaty. Like,
that's a huge pet peeve of mine, because it gets really humid, obviously, where you're at. But I hate the gym days where you walk in and you're not sweating yet, like from your body temperature, you're just already wet, because it's like that's just how it is. But so the next question, I actually was thinking about this today. I was wondering if like making teams more exciting could help the sport become more popular, bring more eyes in. It seems to be every time that we think about making the sport better, we only focus on the individuals. But I think if most people were honest with themselves or looked at the numbers, they would realize that we're probably needing to be a participation-based sport. We're not the NBA. We're not going to have 1 million people in the stands while they watch 10 people on the court. And teams, I think, can bring a lot more people in, which also made me wonder about formats of 6 people teams versus 4 people teams versus 2 people teams. What would be ideal? I think with 2 people teams, you could tell stories. You could have husband, wife, or if you didn't do mixed, you could do, you could do the LeBron thing. You could do dad and son if you could really pull it off. Or
I think the pairs idea is an interesting one, because I think it would make it a lot more accessible. I mean, finding 3 other people and then finding 2 of them being the opposite sex of a same level is difficult to do. Especially for like community divisions. Like for local competitions, I tried doing co-ed community divisions. You just can't Like people are
Doesn't
way
work.
more reluctant to like find someone in
Mhm.
their class that's like married to someone else that's whatever, to be like, hey, you want to do this
Okay.
partner workout with me? But
Yeah.
you can find same-sex partners really easily because it's usually
Mhm.
the people that you partner with and in classes and your friends and all that kind of stuff. I think the pairs thing is interesting, and I think you could do like a co-ed pairs and then a same-sex pairs if you wanted. But just equipment wise, logistically, it would be way easier to just use the same equipment that you use for an individual competition and just do it for a pairs competition.
Mhm.
Um, your question though about how do we make the team competition more exciting? I actually do think that if you had like 8-person teams, but you only had 4 on the floor at the same time, maybe you have 6 occasionally. Think
Oh
about like
man,
what
you're going the opposite way.
think about like what the tier cup did
Mhm.
when they have like all-star teams, but sometimes you only have 2 on the floor. Sometimes you have 1 on the floor. Sometimes you have all 8 on the floor. Sometimes you have 6 on the floor, where you can actually like sub people in for situations based on what they're good at and what they're not good at, which is what all teams do,
Mhm.
other than CrossFit that says for some reason, no, 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 you all have to be the fittest. So you all
Mhm.
have to do everything. So it would require your brain to kind of move away from the basic foundation of what we're doing to
Mhm.
make it to where it's more, but that would make it way more exciting, is that you're like, hey, the the Crash Rhinos have this dude that can do 30 unbroken ring muscle ups, and they also have this dude that has a um that has a 350-pound clean and jerk, but you're probably only going to see them in the 4 events where they can be utilized, and the other ones are just going to be sitting on the bench. But they have these 2 guys that are going to do almost all the workouts. Like
Mhm.
it would be way more like other team sports. Like you sub someone in that's a good base runner if you need to steal a base. You sub someone in um, at running back that's fresh in the fourth quarter because you need to get some, like every other team sport, that's how we do it, right? We do it based on what we're good at, not based on everyone having to do everything.
Hmm. Oh man, I don't know. That sounds a lot like Grid. I didn't watch the
Yeah,
Tier Cup
yeah, it's
Classic,
true.
to be perfectly honest. It bored the idea
No,
was
it's
not exciting
it
to
was
me.
actually, and maybe it's because it's still the best in the world doing it, so you can appreciate them
Mhm.
all being crazy fit, and then getting to kind of show what they're really good at. Like it is a little bit more of a spectacle; it's more of a show.
Mhm.
But I think a lot more people would want to do it if let's just say you're the guy that's like, the guy in the gym that just can hammer the echo bike and it just makes no sense, but they're just the best at the echo bike because they play
Mhm.
football, because they're 6'6", whatever. And you knew that like, dude, I can't compete against these people fitness wise, but a couple times in a weekend, if I could get out there and show what I'm really good at, if I could do 30 cleans for time at 225, like I would do it because
Yeah.
I can show what I'm good at, just like the guy who can run a mile faster can show what he's good at. So I don't know. I think it could be a way to bring more people in. Um,
Mhm. It
but
is
it
that does
wouldn't
kind of
it would go against what we do as far as work capacity of cost broad time and middle domains for sure.
that makes sense. That's I asked this because one, I like the idea of a co-ed pairs. I'd love to compete with my wife
That'd be
on
cool.
stuff. I'd probably start hitting up some testosterone, some meth, and maybe give my kids up for adoption so we could make it to the games as a partner. But and also you could get cool stuff like you could in real time watch people have like divorces on the floor. That could be exciting too.
No, I
Um,
I, I think I do think a one-off competition like a Mr. and Mrs. would be really
mhm.
fun. And
Yeah.
you can literally only do it if you present your like like your wedding certificate
Oh,
or like a driver's license. Like you can't say, yeah, we're a couple. Like, no, you have to be actually married to
I don't
compete.
know. Some of these people will go all the way out to Japan to compete. So I wouldn't be surprised they'll just go to Vegas and get married really quick and pull
Yeah.
a Britney Spears, get the
No.
annulment afterwards.
There would be some epic meltdowns on the floor,
Oh my
though, for
gosh.
sure. Yeah,
Uh,
especially if you've never competed. Like me and my wife don't do partner workouts together. We actually found that we really don't get into arguments at all, but we found that a couple times it's like I want to coach her the same way I coach everyone else,
yeah.
and she's like, "Hey, who are you talking to?" Like, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right." But on a team, if I were to do that, it would just be taken so like, no, you were yelling at me. You weren't trying to help me, that kind of thing. So,
Oh no, it's I know. Me and my wife have similar interactions, I guess you could say. We're a little more rough around the edges on some of that, though. It's a lot of giving and taking on both sides.
that's good. I mean, if you can do that, and both of you can just be like, hey, we're not going to be sensitive in this environment. It's different. I think there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
Yeah. That your idea of the 8-person team, it reminds me of the old regionals format. I don't know if you remember it in like 2014. Where they did they'd have workouts where everybody has to participate, and then every day there'd be one workout where only 2 people do.
Oh, I didn't remember it being that. No, I know it was 6-person teams, but I didn't know there would be some where you wouldn't have the whole team out on the floor.
Yep. Yeah. So every day there was one workout where everybody had to do it, and then there was one workout where only 2 people did it, and it was kind of cool because you could play to your strengths, and that was So that was cool too. Yeah. I don't know. It's I guess there's no right answer, but I do like I like 6s and 2s. I don't know if I'm feeling the 4s anymore, but it's that's maybe just personal preference, like everything else.
6 is looking back on it, as hard as it is to watch 10 lanes of 4 people on the floor. Thinking about watching 10 lanes of 6 would just be wild to think about again.
That's the biggest problem is you can't. It's just because then I think that's when it got really popular. Start doing the relays because it told the story easier.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're not doing a relay, you're going to just do worm. But yeah, I mean, even in a normal individual CrossFit competition, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. So the holes, even though I hate gotta tell a story, I hate when people say it is really important, especially if you're going to get a lot of viewers.
It is.
So
it is. It's not that hard to do on the individual side at all, as long as you just think about the natural progression of the workout. But for the team side, it's way more challenging for sure.
Mayhem, I think, highlights how nice it is to only have 20 people competing. It makes it way easier to tell a story. Five people in the lane makes it so much better to see who's doing what at each time, because your wide cam easily captures 5 people and you can see everybody doing everything, and then you can occasionally zero in on people, watch their grip loosen up while they're doing bar muscle ups or whatever, but yeah. All right, man. Well, it's I guess that's been an hour. I'll let you go. I know you're a busy guy. I still got
kids.
Yeah. Well, you gotta get out of there and go practice your dunking and your jumping so we can get you in on this dunk challenge.
Right. I don't know about that.
Dude, I gotta add, I got a person out in Arizona, my buddy in Colorado, maybe somebody in Florida. I gotta add a South Carolina guy to the mix. And
it's been almost a lifetime ago when last time I dunked anything.
Have you ever been able to dunk like a full basketball?
Yeah, a couple times, but like you would call it like I would graze like it because my hands weren't crazy big enough to palm. I think now I could palm a basketball easier just because I'm just have like grown man strength now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was always just someone that would just like drop step and hang on the rim with 2 hands just to make sure that I could do it. But like that was just kind of let me know that like I can jump high enough to dunk. But like I never dunked in a game or anything like that ever.
Oh, that's a whole nother animal.
Yeah. What is your thing? A tennis ball, a volleyball?
The most I've ever gotten is a softball, and my goal is to get to a mini basketball. Ideally by the end of the year, but if it takes me longer than that, I don't care. I just I think it's a good goal. Also, like and I'm sure you've probably been through this at some point. I was playing with my kids and they're little, 3.5, right? But they cut quick, and cutting back and forth to keep up with them, my hips aren't lying about the state that they're in right now. And I just was like, man, this is bad. I shouldn't feel this. This shouldn't feel that rough. So we're at our gym. We do 1 day a week of like speed and agility. We'll do some kind of jumps and mixed in with some kind of sprint or shuttle. We're starting off with shuttles, which surprisingly, I find that you're less injury prone on shuttles than you are on like a straight up forward sprint.
Definitely. You can only get going so fast doing a shuttle.
Yeah, I guess I would have thought that it would have been worse because you have to accelerate that many more times. And the acceleration seems to be a lot of times the problem, but it's worked out well here. And then I also kind of pre-fatigue people with little plyometrics in between, like go on the minute, because then you can't, well, to be honest, I play around with this every summer. And usually at the start of the summer every year, I think I'm going 70%, when in reality, I'm going 95% and tweak something, But,
Right.
but yeah, it's just something I want to do. I don't know. I want to feel athletic again and get back to it. And it's also a good, it's not just jump training. It's making me eat better as well, which is probably more important. But
Heck yeah, definitely. Remember the base.
yeah. So,
All right,
man. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate
it
it.
was fun.
Thanks for everybody who watched. And don't forget, more protein, less bullshit. Thanks, guys. Bye.